I said, this is another big field, so gonna take a time, I guess. So yeah, the interesting thing here is because of the contracts, we've only sprayed that field directly to our south once. So it's a light blue colour. However, it is actually, that's a pain. No, it's actually classed as full fertilisation as far as the nitrogen content is concerned. So under precision farming display, that is perfect nitrogen content. But we're typically only going around a field once, maybe twice. We might get a two-stage fertilisation where we've done our fields, we've got digestate and then fertiliser on them, so that would count as 2 stages of fertilisation, or oilseed radish and top up fertiliser to finish it off after planting. So obviously with the precision farming, you can put fertiliser on the field without a crop, but you're risking over fertilising the field, getting a nitrogen content too high, and potentially having a lower yield because the nitrogen's too high. When you're using a sprayer or a spreader on a field that has been planted, it will automatically top up the nitrogen levels to exactly what you need them to be for that crop. But if you want, that's the most expensive way of doing it. The solid and liquid fertilizers are not cheap. But what you can do is get the nitrogen levels to close to where they need to be. So for a lot of crops, it's going to be somewhere over 100. So if your nitrogen levels at 60, you could use digestate, slurry, and manure to bring you closer to 100. Then plant the crop. Then top it off with the expensive stuff, and get round it that way. I'm also thinking you can use precision farming and not do field analysis. It's still, the numbers are still there behind the scenes. It's just if you don't do the field analysis, it won't show them to you. So you can estimate where, I've got 60 kilos per hectare of nitrogen in this field, and if I put a minimal amount of liquid fertilizer on it, I'll get it up to 100 in one spray. And my crop needs 140, so maybe if I go, if I let it grow a stage and then go round again, I can get it close to ideal. I won't know that it's exactly ideal. It probably won't be exactly ideal because we're guessing, but it will be, I think they use the term perfect, so it won't necessarily be perfect. You may hit perfect more by luck than judgment on a couple of places on the field, because again, you've got to take into account the soil itself, and you don't know because you haven't analysed. But then after that, you can you're at least you're improving the yield. If you even if you don't get the perfect yield, you can get it to good. And so long as it's good, you're probably getting reasonably close to what you want. Now, my old stream farm playthrough, I am using precision farming, although the equipment I'm using probably doesn't support automatic. Tractor definitely doesn't, and I think for the most part it's the tractor's GPS that tells us where we are on the field. This tractor does actually have GPS installed, and so it would say, okay, I'm at exactly this point, and here is what the soil underneath the boom is for the full width, and here's what the nitrogen level is that I've been told it is, and so I need to add this certain amount more, so I'll regulate the valves on the sprayer, but it has to be a modern sprayer. You can't use an old 1990s sprayer which doesn't have that functionality included in it. It'll be interesting. It was something I said I wanted to attempt to use precision farming without actually knowing what all the numbers are, and I think I've gained enough information playing this playthrough that I know that if I buy a field from a farmer that I've previously contracted to do things in. So I think that field which has barley in, I think I fertilised it 3 times last year. I think I missed out on the harvest, but the field was fertilised 3 times, and so for a contract field that's maximum fertilisation, 100% yield, or the best yield boost you can get for it. It then gets harvested, the nitrogen content drops, but when we took over the field it didn't need that much extra fertiliser added to it. It was round about 80 to 100 kilos per hectare, which is close to being exactly what, it's definitely more than 0, which is what I was expecting it to be. So as I said, I think the game tracks the precision farming numbers even on fields that you don't own, but when it comes to contracts for fertilizer, you're playing under base game rules. Do it twice. If you're playing with Realismus seasons, then do it 3 times. But it's not going to make a significant impact on the contract farm. TKD 302. That's nice. I don't know what that is. Actually, that's probably a tipper. Which reminds me, I've added a mod for another tipper. Because I have been saying I want another grain cart at some time. Round about 30,000 litres. Because of the way we do things on this playthrough, I kind of want something I don't already have. We do not have a lot of fertiliser left. Probably end up running the tank dry here. But yeah, it's as I was saying, it does mean the numbers are there. It's just that they're not in play for contract fields. They are in play for my fields, though, I'm guessing. So, yeah, one of the things you would be able to know, you will get, where we are here, we're looking at the fertilisation map, and we're looking at the base game fertilisation map on the mini-map. but when you're harvesting, you get the yield map. And it might just be that I can get the yield map, and obviously if the yield is red, then that's not good. I probably need a lot more nitrogen in the field if I haven't put a lot in there. And if the yield map is green, then I want to estimate how much nitrogen was sucked out as part of the harvest, and at least replenish that amount to keep it the same for next year. And you can play a couple of years that way and then do the soil analysis and see how close you actually got. Ooh. The other thing, obviously, I haven't graduated is lime. How much lime do I need to spread in order to adjust the pH by 0.25, 0.5, whatever. I'm probably not going to try that out until maybe spring next year when they release Precision Farming 22. Because that's supposedly got a whole host of new stuff added. I'd love to see how much we'd got there. Oh, we're about halfway, so I don't know. I think we started the field with about 2,000 litres, so I'm going to need another 2. As I said, we've only got 1,100 at the store, so we are going to need a little bit extra. But it's not like I don't need it back at the farm, so that's all good too. Squeak. This is really expensive stuff. Oh, that was 1,100. Whoa, okay. 1,110. Whoopoo. Great. So there's about 210 litres left in the IBC. We're going to have to come back for it. No, I don't know. I could leave it and, well, no. I was thinking I could leave it and come with the JCB with the pallet forks to sell the silage tomorrow. But I've got the big multi-bale fork for the JCB, so probably can't carry an IBC on the forks on bale spikes. Could bring the trailer down. There's a weight at the yard, at the store I can borrow to sell the bales with. So I could bring that little Ivor Williams trailer down and lift the IBC on the back of it. It's only 200 litres. It's probably more awkward from the size rather than the weight. So I'm trying to think what else we've seen this week. This week we've seen Okay, so the type of cultivator is going to have an effect on your on what happens on a field. This much we know. Now, one of the things is one type of cultivator will pull up a load of rocks, and then you need a rock collector to collect the rocks. And I believe they said if you don't collect the rocks, then you risk greater damage to equipment you use in the field. So the maintenance bar will go down faster if you don't pick up the rocks, which kind of makes sense. And we can all pretend to be Zach the Millennial Farmer and go out collecting rocks from our fields. I believe another type of cultivator operates faster, but can result in more prolific weeds. So the weeds will happen far more quickly and far more heavily if you use that type of cultivator. So it looks like there's kind of a benefit penalty, at least on cultivation, potentially on ploughing as well, where you can do it this way and there's a small penalty, but it takes longer. Or you can do it that way, you get the job you want done faster, but there's a larger penalty. And you could completely ignore the rocks, it doesn't matter. It's just that you'll be paying for vehicle maintenance more frequently. The big question is things like workers. The thing is with workers is, with real isthmuses, weeds, because they're very sporadic, I can't fill this tractor up with herbicide and tell a worker to go out and spray the field. It'll take one look at the field and say, don't see no weeds, I'm done. And I actually want it to go out and spray herbicide all over the field so that I don't get any weeds ever until I harvest the field. So I have to do, you have to do the herbicide spreading manually. You can do spot spreading, so I could come back with herbicide and spray those couple of growths of weeds and they would be killed where they sit. But it doesn't protect the rest of the field. But that's a limitation of the helper AI. Now they've said they're improving the helper AI, so I'm wondering if they've, especially with the way it appeared, the rocks appearing in the field, they weren't all over the field, they were just in sporadic clumps. So I'm wondering whether you can just say, hey helper, go out and do this field with the piece of equipment you have strapped to the back of your tractor, and it will just do the field and just cover the field entirely, whether it finds whatever you're looking for or not. That would be helpful if that is one of the enhancements that they're planning on with helpers. But we haven't seen anything on helper AI yet. We haven't seen much on animals either. I'd like to see... the only thing we've seen with animals is, well, they're a little bit more dynamic than they used to be. And apparently when you unload a feed wagon into a feed trough, the animals will wander over and actually eat the food. But we haven't seen the detail of, so what do I feed my cows? What do they produce? When do they produce it if I have seasons turned on? Same with pigs, same with sheep. Have you gone to the animals breed at this time of year and they produce wool during this period of the year, or are we still on the base game type of thing where you get a new sheep every 10 hours, and as you get more sheep, the frequency of new sheeps increases, and is there a best and worst time to sell animals? I don't, from what I've seen of the screens, I don't think we're getting a price predictor like we do in with Real Ismus's seasons. So, here I can actually see, where is it? There. When's the best time to sell wheat? Oh, here. When's the best time to sell wool? Here. And I'm not sure we're getting that helper for seasons in 22, which is a shame. Because I kind of like, it's good to be able to plan ahead. I know some people were saying back in 17 it would be nice to be able to contract. So I can say, well, I have this field and I'm undecided what I want to plant in it. What guaranteed price can I get for various crops? And I can look at it and say, well, you're paying above the odds for, or you're offering above the odds for wheat next year. Maybe I'll grow some. Or you want corn? Yeah, I'll grow some of that then. And it's basically the merchants deciding, or incentivizing, should I say, not deciding, but incentivizing what a farmer would grow, which is what happens in real life. I believe it was, again, the millennial farmer was complaining, corn prices are way up this year, but he's got a contract to deliver corn that was agreed on in 2020, end of 2020. So, well, not the end of 2020, no, early 2020, so before COVID really hit. That was when they were negotiating the sale price of their corn, when they were just getting around to planting it. And then obviously bad things happened, and so by fall 2020 the price of corn is a lot higher than it was predicted to have been. And so those farmers that locked in the price on contract aren't getting what they could if they sold it on the open market, but they were contracted to produce X amount of corn at this price, but the price is guaranteed. Now, he did say that obviously next year we'll be able to negotiate based on this year's rates, so we will see the increase. Although this year is major drought in Minnesota, so his yield hasn't been that great, but the price he will get per bushel will be much better than he got per bushel last year. But there were people, back in Farm Sim 17, it would be nice if they implemented a contract thing, so I can plant fields with wheat in order to produce, I need to produce 50,000 litres and they will pay me this amount of money, no matter what the going rate is on the day I actually deliver it to them, because it was agreed to. Now, if I produce more wheat, then the excess may be at a lower rate or at the market rate. And if I don't produce enough, then, well, disasters happen and we didn't get the yield that we expected. As I said, I don't know the full details of how that works, but yeah. I do know that they agree a price pretty much around the time that they're planting. And it's a way for merchants to ensure that they don't end up with, everybody's grown wheat this year, so unfortunately we're not going to be making any beer because there's no barley. Or we're not going to be making ethanol because nobody bothered growing corn this year. You incentivize with a good price farmers to grow what's needed each year. I wonder how we're doing here. Let us have a look. 83%. So we've still got quite a ways to go on this. Taking a little bit longer than I thought. Admittedly, this field is not as friendly a shape as the last one was, should we say. We'll probably be running very close to dry in the tanks though, by the time this is done. I think what we might do here is, however much we've got left over, I'm going to try and I think the front tank's the last thing to empty, so we're still running on the rear, and then as soon as that's empty we'll switch to the front only. Ooh. We'll be able to tell that, because I know the front tank only takes 1100 litres. The rear would be 1800, I guess. But we'll make sure that we've got all of the spare fertiliser in the front tank, so when we get back to the farm we can unload it where it needs to unload. We'll try and consolidate those tanks. As I said, one of them was a standard tank, which means when you empty it, it disappears. And the other one is a refillable tank, which should mean that I can put liquid fertiliser in it all the time. So I've always got a 2000 litre IBC that I can put liquid fertiliser in on the farm. So the only problem then becomes if I get back to the farm with more than 2,000 litres in the sprayer. That's way more than I have storage for. And of course the other option would be to look into, there are a couple of static tank mods. You can just place somewhere on the farm and I could just pump. If it's manure system compatible, of course, I could just pump the spare fertiliser into those tanks. I would probably need to get one of those static pumps. We'll look at that in a minute. So for the most part, all I'm using at the moment is just a single pipe that we connect to one of the sprayer tanks, and the other end we connect to the IBC, and we use the sprayer's pump to fill or empty the spray tanks. But if I wanted to do an IBC to IBC transfer, there are